Hello, good morning. Hi, Lorna. Hi, everybody
Morning.
watching. Hello. It's lovely to see you again. And to those of you joining, please say hello. If you're watching the replay, please say hello as well. Lorna is joining us from Positive Steps Physiotherapy again to talk about dynamic movement skills. So this one is all about getting jiggy, I think. And it'd be lovely to see anybody, whatever you take from it. If you do the activities, I don't know, can people do the activities along with you? Or is it something
They can try, and if not, they can certainly get onto it later and let us know how they get on.
That would be perfect, yeah. All right, thank you, Lorna, for being here, and I'll let you take it over.
Thank you very much. So thanks for asking me to talk again. So my name's Lorna Saunders, as Bron has said. I own Positive Steps Physiotherapy. So we're a little team of 4, 2 physios and 2 physio assistants, and we treat children with a whole range of difficulties, from children that have got a little bit of pain to children with far more complex movement disorders. We also treat adults that require neuro rehab, so adults that have had strokes or adults that have had head injuries. So yeah, a whole kind of host of different people that we target. And we, when we're out and about, we cover Staffordshire, Cheshire and Shropshire, but virtually we can help anybody. So we've been doing video consults since the start of lockdown, and we still very much do that. So we do what we call kind of hybrid clinics. So we're out and about some days, and other days we're doing video calls. So summary of today's session, what we're going to cover, we're going to look at dynamic movement skills, DMS for short. We're going to look at what it is. We're going to look at who it can help. And then we're going to give it a bit of a try. So I've got a little video to demonstrate all the different moves, and you can certainly try it along at the same time. And if not, you can definitely give it a go afterwards. So dynamic movement skills, DMS, it's a cutting edge training methodology that is designed to help us move better. So it's not about just moving more, it's about moving better. And that is what I am so passionate about, getting all my clients, whatever their ability, to move better. It's designed by an awesome organisation called the Movement and Running School. Now, the Movement and Running School's headquarters are down in London, and that's founded by a really inspirational gentleman called Mike Antoniadis, and I've had the pleasure of being trained by Mike and working alongside Mike as well. So their headquarters are in London, but they've got franchises all over the world, like literally all over the world. So it's a huge, huge organisation helping so many people. Excuse me. So how did I first get involved? Well, about 3 years ago, I saw a course advertised in our kind of physiotherapy journal, and I was attracted to it because it was a little bit different. It didn't look like something that physios would always normally do. So that was what kind of attracted me to it. And it was in Manchester, and I went along it was a weekend, and it just struck a chord. It just really fitted with how my brain worked and how I wanted to help people. And it was one of these courses that I just knew that on the Monday morning I could give it a go. I could see different clients that I'd be able to use it with. And I love that kind of, that you can go straight in and you can start using it straight away. And since then, I've done several other courses. I've been down to London a few times to do some more courses. I've also been down to the running school with my own children. And I've also worked with Mike a bit close to home in Stoke. So who do they work with? So the Movement and Running School and some of my clients, but the Movement and Running School work with people right from kind of about that we would do DMS with. So they work with people from 5 all the way up to 95. They work with, similar to us, our clients that have movement disorders and difficulties. And then they work all the way through to elite athletes. I don't work with elite athletes, but they do. So they work with some of the Premier League footballers. They work and have worked with the Olympic athletes. They do a lot of work with the West End dancers in London as well. So they've got some really interesting people that they work with. So what exactly is DMS? So DMS, like I said, is a training system that helps improve your gross motor skills. So last time I did a chat with yourselves, it was about the developmental building blocks. So the building blocks that are needed kind of pre-walking. DMS continues to work on those building blocks, because once we start walking, there's still lots of other things we've got to learn and we've got to refine. It works on our balance, it improves our coordination, it improves our speed and our agility, and it improves our explosiveness, so our ability to move quickly, to start off, to change direction. And one of the biggest things it works on is what's called proprioception. Now, proprioception is the ability for our feet to talk to our brains and vice versa. So our brains to know what our feet are doing without having to use our eyes. So many of my clients use their vision to compensate. Because they find things a bit tricky, they'll use their vision. But what DMS works on is stopping us having to kind of cheat with our vision. It helps that proprioceptive awareness get better and better. Now, that proprioceptive awareness can be affected by injury. So in any of us, if we injure ourselves, that proprioception will be dampened down. But if someone has a movement disorder, if someone's not moving in the kind of the normal pattern of movement, then their proprioception is probably affected as well. And like I say, if that proprioception is affected, then it's really hard to improve your balance, to improve your coordination, to get better at things. Typically, so if we're thinking feet, typically things like an ankle sprain will really dampen down the proprioception. So when people break their ankle or sprain their ankle, they'll quite often get the movement back. So it might be a bit stiff and they'll work on getting the movement back. Then it might be a bit weak, so they'll work on getting the strength back. But more often than not, people don't work on getting the proprioception back completely. Your elite athletes will do, but most of us have to get back to normal life quite quickly, and therefore we kind of can't worry about. And that's when somebody that's badly sprained their ankle is likely to do it again. And you'll hear people all the time saying, oh, I went over my ankle when I was a child, it's never been the same. Okay, so that's to do with the proprioception. What DMS also then does is it improves our neuromuscular efficiency. So that's a big word that just means, again, the brain and the muscles talking to each other. So those kind of the signals going to and from, the efficiency of that gets better through repetition and through actually changing the movement pattern. So we're making people move better, so the neuromuscular efficiency gets better. We move more efficiently. And again, I see so many children that run and they put so much effort into it and they're trying so hard, but they're not really going anywhere. They kind of look like they're a bit stuck in mud. And that is because they're not moving efficiently. And that brings us on to running. Running and skills that children use in the playground, they use in PE, they use when they're at the park. No one really teaches us that. So children walk and then children run, and they kind of just do it how they feel. And if you stand at a sports day when they're allowed to happen again, goodness knows when, you watch children running and they all run with such different patterns. I stand at my little boy's football and watch children running and try not to correct anyone because that's not my job at that point. But if someone struggles to run, if someone finds it hard to do the things in PE, if someone finds it hard to join in at playtime, the impact of that is massive, because we don't want to do something that we're not very good at. We don't want to do something that we find really hard, so we stop doing it. When we stop doing it, we then create a really vicious cycle. We find things that we're really good at and we focus on them. We don't focus on the things we find tricky. But that is a really vicious cycle. And the less we do it, the harder it becomes. Excuse me. And the less we do it, we're not doing those repetitions. We're not improving our balance. We're not improving our coordination. And like I say, it's a really vicious cycle. So who exactly can we help with DMS? Well, the short answer is everybody. Absolutely everybody can improve with DMS, from, like I say, from the age of about 5 up to however old. So I thought I would go through a few kind of case studies of people that I've worked with, just to kind of let you see exactly how it has helped and how it's impacted on people's lives and how it's improved what they've done. So if we think about your child that we've talked about that struggles with PE, now they might have a diagnosis, but actually they might not. So they might have a diagnosis of dyspraxia, where they struggle with their coordination. They might have some other diagnosis, but like I say, it might just not be their thing. Now, I had a young girl that was exactly that. So I've only ever seen her on video consults because she came to me over lockdown. Mum contacted me through Facebook, through the Positive Steps Facebook page, and said, a little bit worried about my daughter. She's 14. She's got a bit of pain in her feet, but it kind of struggles to keep up with her friends when they walk to school. Hates PE, like, oh, absolutely. And when I spoke to her, she hates PE. Always is like at the back of the line, hoping that someone will go in front of her. So I said, okay, so during lockdown, I created a DMS challenge, a free 5-day challenge on my Facebook page, and it's on my website as well. So you go onto that, you download it, and you get sent a challenge, a worksheet of activities every day for 5 days. There's also a lovely video that explains all about it. A little bit about what I'm doing now, but it also explains exactly how we do it. So I said to her mum, go onto that, have a go, send me some videos, and let me know. So that's what we did. So about a week or so later, she sent me a video of the young girl doing some jumps, at which point I was like, her feet are not her only problem. She couldn't jump. When she jumped, she used her whole body. She was all over the place. She had no precision. She just really couldn't do it. So I then contacted the mum back and said, right, okay, I think we need to break it down a little bit. We need to personalise it for her. So the challenge obviously is aimed at kind of everybody. And so for some people, it will be too hard. So what we did is we did a video call. So we started on some video calls, one-to-one video calls. And I set her up with some of the more basic DMS movements. And she had to do them for 10-15 minutes, 3 times a week. And then we reviewed about 3-4 weeks later. So this was kind of in April, May time, we started getting in touch. And she's just currently having a bit of a break because she's worked really hard on them. And so she's having a little bit of a break till Christmas, and then I'm going to review her again in January. But she has improved massively. She isn't ever going to love PE. She's 14. She's almost finished with PE. But her running has improved so much. She no longer, and it broke my heart actually when she said to me, I don't run at school because people say I look weird when I run. Because she was filling up and it's really hard. Her running looks so much better. And I wouldn't say it looks weird now. It looks so much better. She really couldn't jump before. And now, so we time how long you do it for. And when I'm assessing, I count. And she went from being able to do a few jumps in the time, in the 20 seconds, and she's now doing 25. And her precision is amazing. So that's just, but the impact of that is that she's keeping up with friends. She's not complaining of foot pain. She still hates PE, but we're nearly there. Another young girl I saw who had quite a lot of injuries. So she was more your kind of sporty child. Did love sport, and then she broke her ankle. And then she sprained it afterwards as well because she hadn't obviously rehabbed it properly. And she then started to dislike sport. She started to put a bit of weight on, which meant she disliked sport even more. So I started her. This was pre-COVID, so she came to my clinic, set her up with exercises for 3 weeks. She came back to me. She came bouncing into the clinic room. I'd been picked for the netball team. She was over the moon. Such a good result so quickly. So that's the impact it has. My own child, so Harrison sprained his ankle when he was about 7. I thought I'd kind of got him back. I clearly hadn't before I knew about DMS. And then kind of really crept up on us. And then he did a football camp one summer holidays, and he was in so much pain all around his hip and his groin, so much pain. And so I knew by that point, we had to get him on the DMS, but he's my child, he didn't listen. So I phoned Mike up. I said, Mike, I'm going to have to bring him down because he isn't going to listen to me. So I took him down to London. We did a day down there. Mike saw him, and the minute Mike told him that he treated Mike Lowen, that was it. Mike had him. Harrison was like, oh, wow. So he was all over doing what he was told by Mike. And this is a prime example. So this was October time. And then I went back to the running school in February to have him reassessed. And we did the DMS over the winter. So because it was the winter, because where I lived at the time, I couldn't really do running practice with him. And at the weekend, he was doing his football. And we didn't do much running at all. We really just did the DMS. And when we went back to the running school in February, put him on the treadmill again. And honestly, the videos before and after of him running are just phenomenal. He's faster, he's moving, but more importantly, he had no pain. The first time I took him to the running school, no word of a lie, I had to walk him backwards, because when you walk backwards, it doesn't hurt. I had to walk him backwards to the tube station because he was in that much pain from doing all the activity. When I walked him, when I went to the running school in February, he had no pain. He'd had no pain at his football. It had gone. So that was amazing. And then some of the children who have maybe got slightly more difficulty with moving, more complex needs, that I've seen, again, a young boy who, again, couldn't jump, has a weakness down one side, really struggled to run. And over lockdown, we've done video calls twice a week with him, and he's done his DMS. And again, he's flying. He's like a little kangaroo. He jumps that well now. And he, in the time, in the 20 seconds, he's now aiming for 40 jumps, forward and back, because he's just brilliant. His running has come on loads. And what he's now doing is he wants to do activities with his family. He wants to be on his bike because he can. He's got that balance and coordination. He can start to ride his bike. All these things are the impact it has. And then with our older clients, I've got a lady who had a brain injury because she was in a really nasty road traffic accident. And over lockdown, we got her on the DMS. So, and it was something she could do herself. And through repetition, she remembered what she had to do. And the impact for her is that her balance and coordination and her stability have improved so much that she can put the shopping away. She can reach down to the floor that she couldn't do before. She can do the hoovering. And you might think you want an excuse not to do the hoovering, but when it's taken away from you, actually, it's quite nice to get back to it. She can also walk further when she's outside now with confidence. So she's able to walk to the shop herself. These are things that, you know, she's in her 50s. You should be able to do these. And when they're taken away from you, it has a huge, huge impact. And then we work with some elderly as well. So the elderly are brilliant with this because not doing it as fast, obviously, when you see the video, but it really helps with fall prevention. So as we get older, we tend to, and other people who struggle with their walking, tend to walk with shorter steps because they believe it makes them safer. But actually what it does is sets them up for secondary problems where they're more at risk of falling. And we can use the DMS to improve that and to make them at less risk of falling. Okay, so we've talked all around the DMS. We're going to now have a little look. So again, I've referenced my Facebook challenge, my 5-day DMS challenge, and that has a little bit more detail, get my words out, a little bit more detail about certain parts. But this video now is going to just give you an insight into all the kind of basic movements and activities involved with DMS. So Jenny is going to, as she's doing, she's a superstar, she's going to screen share the video that I have done, and then we will come back and I'll summarise what we've talked about. Thanks, Jenny.
We have Archie Saunders, my willing volunteer. So Archie's going to show you what the DMS is all about. Now, as you can see, we have two mats here. We have the adults mat that he's standing on, and we have the kids mat. Now, Archie is 10, and he is slightly too big for the kids one now. Do you want to stand on the kids one, Archie? So his feet are a little bit too big for the home square. So I have these funky mats. You don't need them. You can do it at home. So what Archie's standing on is the home square. The adult one is 25 centimetres squared and the kids one is 20 centimetres squared. So you can just make your own at home. You can tape a box 25 centimetres on your floor, or you could chalk it on your patio. If you download my free DMS challenge on the Positive Steps Facebook page, then it's got some more detailed instructions about making a mat at home. But like I say, you don't need a mat. It is good to have one, and my clients certainly like them because they help motivate them. but you can do it at home. So let's talk about some of the movement. So Archie's going to show us, first of all, footwork. Okay, so footwork can go to any letter or any number. We're going to do it to each of the letters. So Archie, show me footwork to A, leading with your, oh, go with your left then, leading with your left. So slow it down a bit so everyone can, so he's just going forward and back. He's on the balls of his feet. Can you do it when you're looking up, Archie, and then just glance down? Relax those arms, Arch. And then go as fast as you can. And stop. So the idea is that you go as fast as you can without getting mixed up. And when we do it for blocks of 20 seconds. So it's like high intensity training. So this time, Archie, try and go to A, but lead with your right leg. Ready, steady, he's off already. Doesn't matter. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so we can go forward with our right and forward with our left. Now we can do the same backwards. So go backwards, Archie, and lead with, wait. Lead with your left. Ready, steady, go. It looks easy, but when you try it, it really isn't. It's quite easy to get mixed up. So Archie's doing really well. And stop. Okay, and then he can do the same and lead with his right, just like he did forward. Okay, so you want to do little steps, nice and even, on the balls of your feet and arms relaxed. And once you get good at it, you can look up and then just glance down. And that's when your proprioception is getting good. Okay, Archie, show them how you would go to B, so to the right. So it's a different pattern. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. And then show us how you would go to D, to the left. And then you go faster and faster. And the idea is you go as fast as you can. Can you remember the more complicated one, Archie, where you go to B and D? See if you can remember. So this is where they get more complicated. Can you remember? So this is a rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And this is brilliant for increasing your speed. Well done, Archie, that's fine. Okay, so that's the footwork. And the footwork can get more complicated as well. When my clients get really good, I take them to the numbers as well, which is quite a bit harder. Okay, this time, Archie, let's look at double leg jumps. So jumps, let's go to A. Little jumps, let's go. Beautiful. Okay, and then you can do the same, but you can go to B. Let's go. So just little jumps, in and out, in and out. And as you can see, there shouldn't be loads of extra movement. And stop. Sometimes when kids start doing this, their arms will be everywhere. But the better they get, then it will look more like Archie. And then obviously you can go to C and you can go to D. As we progress the jumps, let's try some quarter circles, Archie. So A, B, home. Excellent. And then as that gets easier, they do semicircles. Right, Archie, listen, let's do A, D, C, home. See, it's getting trickier. Oh my goodness, that just shows how tricky it is. Well done, Archie. And again, you do 20 seconds at a time. Sometimes I will start at 10 if it's too tricky. We then build up to the ultimate. Are you ready, Archie? All around the world. So let's go clockwise first of all.
Wait, that's clockwise, right?
Awesome. And stop. And then he can go the other way. He's huffing and puffing. I'm not sure if you can hear. Oh, don't twist those feet, Archie. Try again, so don't twist those feet. Well done, Archie, and stop. Have a rest. Have a rest, have a drink. Okay, so that's your footwork. That's your double leg jumps. And you can see, so Archie plays football. Archie plays cricket. This is hard. But you make it as hard as it needs to be for you. Okay, then it builds up. And the super tricky one is your single leg jumps, otherwise known as hops. So we're just going to try a couple, Archie. So let's try a hop on your right to A. Awesome. And then stop. Let's try the same on your left. Beautiful. Okay. And then what you can do as well, So you're going to try and hop on your right to B, Archie. So on your right leg, you can try and hop to B. Well done. And stop. So hopping and moving forward or sideways is actually really, really tricky. Let's just try on your left to D. Beautiful. Okay, and then you can do exactly the same backwards. So let's try backwards on your right. Well done. And then let's try backwards on your left. Oh, see how that's a little bit trickier for him. And he's a little bit flatter footed as well. And stop. Well done. Okay, well, you recover. So that's your DMS. That's the basics. You would do 20 seconds on, and then they can have 20 seconds rest in between. Oh, sorry. So that's DMS in a nutshell. I also use these mats to help improve people's walking pattern and to help improve people's range of movement and also help their balance reaction. So Archie's just going to show you a couple of the things that I do just to give you a little insight. So Archie, can you step to A and get a really good heel strike? And back. And again. And back. And I would do high repetitions of that with clients to improve their walking pattern. Can you step to 3 and get a really good heel strike? Beautiful, and back. And again. Excellent, and back. Okay, and then what you can also do, because quite often people struggle with the trunk rotation and turn, that's it. A lot of my clients struggle with that. Just step to 2 and then twist round for me, Archie. So step, and then rotate round, and back. Archie has no difficulty doing it. But that's just, there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of exercises that I do on this mat. So thank you, Archie, for being my model. And that's a very brief summary of the amazing dynamic movement skills.
So that was my willing helper. I said to Jenny earlier, my other son was not so willing. He's a preteen, he was upstairs having a grump at the time, but I had one willing helper. So just to summarise, now that you've had a little look and a little been able to see what DMS exactly is, it really is about moving better, not just moving more. I absolutely am really passionate about that. I've taken the DMS into some schools. So before COVID, what happened was I kind of presented it to the schools, showed them how they could use it, and then Mike and I trained the teachers and the teaching assistants up so that they could teach the DMS. They then purchased some of the mats and they used them as part of a PE lesson, as a whole PE lesson, or they use them at the back of the class. 5 minutes at a time is a bit of a brain break. So when the kids are getting a bit wriggly and a bit losing concentration, they get them up and they go on the mats. And it is brilliant. And actually, for the schools that have already bought into it, it's a brilliant way of doing it in our COVID secure world, because it is perfect socially distanced activities because they're on their mats and the mats are fully wipeable. So it is a really, really good way moving forward. I would really love to get back into schools, but obviously at the moment that's not going to happen. So it's about moving better. It's so easy to fit into your daily life. So it can either be 10-15 minutes, or with some kids, we do 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes every weekday, Monday to Friday, 5 minutes, job done. It is perfect for winter. It's perfect for lockdown, and it has been an absolute godsend for my physio practice over lockdown and moving to video consult, because it works so well for my clients that have mats and for the ones that don't. It works so well because it's such a good activity, and like you say, they're actually improved over lockdown. They haven't just maintained, they've improved. So I suppose now it is about giving it a go. It's about getting a square marked out in your house and just giving it a go. You can either just give it a go based on what you've seen today. You can download the free 5-day challenge and give that a go. And then, you know, if you have any difficulties, if anything's not quite working or you're not really sure, then give me a shout, because I'm more than happy to kind of personalise it, set individual goals and make it more specific for you. So yeah, just give it a go. Thank you so much for listening.
That's absolutely brilliant. I've never seen that before. What a lovely easy thing.
I know, that's why I love it.
Yeah, and I love, like, for anybody watching, for our little ones with spina bifida, sometimes the distal, so the feet, you know, they might be affected. Proprioception is a big thing that we see, and just that structure around how to do it, isn't it? It's different to just standing on a wobble board, which you can do, wobble cushion or wobble board or something, but it's much more, like you say, dynamic, and that's the key, isn't it? It's much more what we do in everyday life is steps and moving.
It is, and you know, it also, so some people have sometimes said, you know, well, it's a bit like at football training, they do it over a ladder, but it's not, because over a ladder you've got to step over something, and that's not everyday life. Whereas that's the beauty of this, is that you're not stepping over anything that's a surface. So it's much more. That's why it helps the running. That's why it helps the functional skills. And it really is some of the movements that I do on the mat. Sometimes you think, what on earth is that all about? But it's so functional, and it comes into kind of, you know, everyday life. And yeah, it is, like you say, it's that high intensity and the timing, because you get the kids involved. You know, like when my boys do it together, one will time, one will kind of coach, because say, oh, you need to do this, or, you know, balls with feet or arms down. And then they might start counting and keeping scores, not against each other, but scores against themselves, so they can start to beat their own scores. So it's that kind of motivation that kids love, isn't it?
And I think as well, like, even, I mean, have you used it with kids? Because while I'm looking at it, you can sort of see, like, even if your child had to use a K-walker or sticks, you can still, and I love the visual element of it, because it's kind of giving them this 3D, okay, well, I know where my feet need to go, but I've got to stay in this, you know, come back to the middle all the time, which is often a big thing, isn't it? Is that coming back to the middle, staying still, and then stepping out and coming back. It's
absolutely. And one of the schools that I've bought into is a special school in Stoke. And so lots of the kids are in fully supported walkers. And, you know, ideally they're not, but for children that have to use fully supported walkers, then yeah, we just put the walker on the mat. And they're still doing the same stepping practice. They're still, and like you say, you're not just doing step forward, step back. It's step to A, or, you know, and it's just, you count and you give targets, and there's a timer, and obviously Archie was doing it at quite a fast speed, but so many of the children I do it at, like, we're literally in the 20 seconds, they might achieve 3 or 4 jumps first time. That's it. And then they just grab, and footwork we might not even touch on. But one of the little boys I talked about that I did it over lockdown with, we've just started to do footwork with him. He's 6, and we've started to do footwork. And at first I just let him go with whatever leg, I didn't bother. But then just last week we started to do, right, go with your right, now go with your left. And that's because he's able to do that now, whereas we'd have never been able to. He'd have just been all over the place at first, but because he's built up his proprioception, because he's practiced, and I do then kind of put it into lots of other, so like when he's doing kind of gym or he's doing PE, they do lots of jumping, or they do, so you can fit it into loads of hopscotch. That's another one. I love hopscotch, but that's another one that children that do this. A young girl I saw who was autistic but had real issues with coordination and was really very clumsy, was always the last at everything in sport, couldn't hop, couldn't jump, and she hopscotches her way around the playground now because she can, and why not?
Oh, brilliant. I also love that you said about the falls, because like, it just makes it a bit of fun as well, isn't it? But it's something so practical and tangible, and like you say, because we all like to have a goal with our exercises, isn't it? Like, okay, well, this is your thing and this is how we're progressing it. I really like that. I can see how that would work with all ages, like you say. It's brilliant. I think Jenny just put on there about your hands, and actually, like, you could set up a similar thing, couldn't you, really? Picking up and putting down.
Yeah, I do use it, so I didn't even touch on that. So we use it for upper limb. So I actually at my clinic have one on the wall, which obviously I haven't used for months. But with kids, so not so much with adults, but with kids, I use the mat and I put them on their hands and knees. So you go on your hands and knees and you put your hands in the home square, and then you do the same. You go out, in, out, in, out, in, and then you go to the side, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, the same. And the proprioceptive awareness improves massively. I say normally I do it against the wall with adults, and you do the same thing. You just imagine it's stuck on the wall. but I've had awesome results with improving shoulder stability, because you're obviously you're weight bearing through your shoulders, but you're also all those little receptors in your fingers and your hands, because you've got full contact on the floor. So yeah, I put kids on the hands and knees all the time and use it for hands, and go forwards, backwards, and sideways. And yeah, and I quite often, for kids that get tired and really struggle, I'll put them on the hands and knees for a bit, just to change it and mix it up, and say, let's do some on your hands, and then we get them back on their feet. So yeah, absolutely, it can be used that way as well.
That's brilliant. Really cool. So much potential, and with our children that we, our members as well. I just think it's very good. Thank you for that.
No problem at all.
Thank you. So just for interest, if somebody did want to mat, do they have to do a course first? Like, with the information you've got given us here, and then people could obviously have a conversation with me, and if we had I mean,
so how it normally works is that with anyone that comes under that sees me, they sometimes don't want to actually hire a mat or buy a mat, and they just do it themselves, and then I guide them through their program. So anyone can kind of do it, but you would need to have somebody that's been trained in the DMS to then lead them with the program. But yeah, talking to you, Bron, certainly have a look. I mean, I was really hoping to run a course up here actually, in Staffordshire, and then obviously this year's just gone.
Yeah.
But it's something in the future I'd love to do. But certainly, with regard to the schools and stuff, how it works with that is that we go in and we train them to be trainers. So we train Mike and I have trained the teaching assistant, the teachers, like a kind of core group of about 10. The issue with schools is always kind of this financial side of it. But once they've bought and outlaid, it's there to then just keep progressing, and it is a brilliant, like I say, kind of it's that moving better, not just moving more, because loads of schools are will adopt the Daily Mile, or they'll adopt other. It doesn't really get them move. The kids that can't move or don't move well just do it at the back. They just walk the Daily Mile and hate it,
Yeah.
And whereas the thing with this is that no matter what your child's ability or your adult's ability is, that everybody will improve. If you're on your feet in some way, everybody will improve with this. So like I say, yeah, to actually train someone to use it, you need to have done the course. But from the point of view of using it, I have loads of different individuals using it, and I just guide them, and I, progress them, and they come back to me. And we do it in blocks. So they do blocks on, blocks off, because otherwise you get bored and lose interest.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. I don't think there's any more questions there. Somebody said, my son loves PE but really struggles as it's not always inclusive, which is always a thing, isn't it? Jenny replied with a link to a page where hopefully they can be helpful. But perhaps by doing this kind of thing helps children to become a little bit more able to participate as well,
Absolutely, and they don't feel like it's hard work. They don't feel like they're always kind of, at the back. And the young girl I was talking about, the girl who's diagnosed with autistic, I was gutted we didn't have sports day this year, because she's at the same school as my kids. And I remember the first sports day when I was involved, and she was the one at the back that the head teacher was running with to get her to carry on and to finish. And then the next year, she was right in the middle, and she wasn't the one at the back. Someone else was the one at the back. And I was more proud of her than I was my own kids. I was like screaming. And then this year, sports day got cancelled. I was like, no. She's in secondary school now, so it's different. But that was by doing this. And actually what happened there was, because she had a one-to-one, she did it 3 times a week at school with a one-to-one, 15 minutes at a time. I lent them a mat, and like I say, 3 times a week, and it just meant that she could then join in with PE. She could then, she made it more inclusive because she was able to do it. So it is something that, like you say, maybe if the kids have got one-to-ones, that they could do it as, a bit of a breakout session. And she's now actually using it at high school still, and she's using it as a breakout brain break, because she's struggling with the whole, just the timetable at high school. So we've got them, they pull her out of 1 lesson a day, and she goes and does 15 minutes, and she goes back, and they've already said she's so much more focused and ready to learn. when she's done it for kind of 15. She hates it. She's that age. She's like, I don't want to do it. But she knows, when you get her on a good day, she totally gets like how it's helping her, and she does it. She just grumps her way through it because she's 11, 12. But it has allowed her, and so now she's gone to high school. She's kind of able to keep up a little bit more. I mean, she's never going to be in set one for PE, but it's allowed her to keep up and not feel like she just can't. So definitely it's worth a go.
Brilliant. I need to get my daughter on it. It'd be amazing. Thank you for that. That's really, really, really interesting and helpful.
My absolute pleasure.
There we are, lovely. And when are we seeing you again? We've got one more session with you. Oh, there we are. Jenny's onto it. She actually reads your mind. You are amazing, Jenny. Next session with Bron and Lorna is for carers looking after yourself. Facebook Live. So it's Monday, the 7th of December at 10 o'clock.
I just couldn't remember the date. I knew what I was doing. I just couldn't remember the date. It's in my diary, honest.
And is that more about sort of looking after ourselves physically, or I mean, both?
A little bit of both. A little bit of kind of awareness of just our physically how we work, and how we look after kind of our backs, but then also a little bit about kind of how exercise helps our our mental kind of well-being. So it's a bit of everything.
Brilliant. Looking forward to it.
My pleasure. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Lorna.
Bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.